Hello, everybody, and welcome to PublishDrive Author Hour. Very excited to have you all today because I think that there have been some things in, different author groups and things like that lately that really are worth an important conversation. If Amazon canceled your KDP account today, would you still have an author business tomorrow? It's really funny because I was just scrolling through Facebook right before I went live, and there are 3 different authors right now that I know personally who are upset because Amazon has sent them a notice that they're canceling their account or suspending their account, or there's a problem with the book. And they're freaking out because if they lose their Amazon account, they have lost their entire business. So terrifying for a lot of authors. And I know that many authors find that their primary income does come from Amazon. So I want to be clear, this is not an anti-Amazon conversation. This isn't going to be bashing Amazon. We hate Amazon. We're mad at Amazon. Amazon has been a great place for authors to do business. But one of the things that obviously we care about at PublishDrive is that it doesn't have to be your only way of doing business, because for PublishDrive, we go wide and we distribute to many stores, including Amazon. And Amazon is an important retailer for many, many authors. So it's important to remember that this isn't about get rid of Amazon, we hate Amazon, anything like that. It is to understand that Amazon is important, and how do we as authors, as publishers, how do we minimize our risk? And so the goal of today's talk is to understand account risks, prepare for potential problems, and avoid building an entire business on one platform. Going wide is business risk management. It's really about not putting all of your eggs in one basket. It really is, how do we minimize the risk to your business so that if Amazon went dark tomorrow, or Amazon canceled your account tomorrow, you still have options. And I think that's true of any retailer. If any retailer were to close tomorrow, what are you going to do about your business, and how will that affect your business? I still think about years ago, many of us were wide on a platform called Pronoun. And when Pronoun closed, a lot of people saw that they had to suddenly figure out a new way to distribute their books. And so that's something that's really important for people to understand, is what risk does your business have and how can you minimize that risk? So we'll talk about that today. We're also going to talk about why books and accounts might be flagged, some misconceptions about AI disclosure, which is another thing that I've been hearing circulating in the groups, what authors can do when problems occur, how PublishDrive can help, and practical steps for building a wide publishing strategy. So before we get started, one of the things that I want to talk about is an online conference that we're hosting as PublishDrive September 8th and 9th called Foundations for Publishing Success. You can find the link for more information and to register in the description. It is a free online publishing summit focused on the business side of being author. One of the things that I've heard loud and clear from authors as I've been working with authors and talking to different authors about PublishDrive, and part of why we started these live series, is that people are looking for how to be more successful. And I'm only me, I can only teach you so much. And so what I did is I went to some people I know in the industry and said, hey, let's do this conference. I want it to be free for everybody. And how can we help authors become more successful? And so that's what you're going to get September 8th and 9th. We're adding confirmed speakers to the website every single day. Schedule information will be updated soon. I'm still working out some of the scheduling things for the conference. Recordings are going to be available. And what I intentionally decided to do for this conference, because I know everyone's busy, is that you're always going to be able to watch the recordings on YouTube, on demand whenever you want. So while we would really love for you to come live, please do. I think you'll get the most out of it because then you'll be able to ask questions of the speakers and interact with speakers and things like that. You can always watch the recording later on YouTube. Or maybe there was a talk you really enjoyed. You can go back and watch that as well. The other thing on the website for the conference is I'm looking at creating an in-person event in Budapest, Hungary in June 2027. So part of this has come from, I go every June for our annual company meetings. And a lot of authors are like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You get to go to Budapest. I would love to go to Budapest. And I talk to authors all the time who are like, how come you only do conferences in these locations? Why, what is available for authors who are in other parts of the world? And so this is my answer to that. Number one, if you're somebody who watches me and has seen my videos of being in Budapest, some of you may have seen the video we had about a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago now, with Kinga, our CEO. She and I had a casual conversation in a park in Budapest. It was lovely. Some of you are like, oh, I want to do that. I want to go there. So this is for you. And if you're just an author who maybe you're not in the US or going to the US isn't convenient, or going to some of the other conferences that are in other parts of the world, you're like, I can't do that. Budapest is another option for you. So if you go to the Foundations for Publishing Success page and you scroll down towards the bottom, there is an interest form. Fill that out. I'm not 100% that we're going to do this. It really is going to depend on interest and budget and all of that kind of stuff. So, but we want to really at least see what people are interested in, what will benefit authors the most. That's really what we're trying to do. Our goal isn't to create one more thing for authors to have to do, or just some other noise. We really want to do something that's going to be useful and beneficial to authors and publishers. So please fill out that form, share your thoughts with me, and as we do more planning on both of those things, I will be sharing updates on our weekly lives. So let's get into this idea of, what does Amazon canceled my account mean? So first of all, I have been seeing a lot of this talk on Facebook, in other various online groups, things like that, where people are freaking out because, oh no, I just got my Amazon account got terminated. I don't know what to do. I don't know what triggered it. I don't know how to fix it. And so there's been that noise. And then we at PublishDrive have also been talking with Amazon, talking amongst the team, things like that, about how we can help authors be more successful and building that relationship. And so we've been thinking a lot about that as well. And then Dale L. Roberts, who is a good friend of mine, he has a really wonderful YouTube channel, Self-Publishing with Dale. He did a great video on what happens when your Amazon account gets canceled. And so that is also linked in the description. So check that out. Give Dale some love. And so some of this was also just inspired by him and some of the things that he talks about. And so one of the things that I really liked what he said that was really important, because I think people see this, oh, my account got canceled by Amazon, and they're freaking out and they don't know what to do. What I really like that he was talking about is that there are some distinctions. There's the blocked book, which is only going to affect one title. And account suspension is something where your account is temporarily restricted while Amazon investigates. And an account termination is when your KDP publishing relationship is ended and your catalog is removed. And so a lot of times people think that it's all the same thing, and they are different things. They're different events, and there are different ways to talk to Amazon about that. The big thing that's really important is read those emails you're getting from Amazon very carefully and follow the instructions very carefully, and continue going through the escalation. And again, I've seen the frustration in a lot of author groups where they've done that. They've replied to the email, they've provided documentation. Amazon comes back and says, nope, still not going to work. So I get it. It's hard and it's scary. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it today from a PublishDrive perspective. And like I said, I also really highly recommend Dale's video. There's a lot of really good things in that video that are covered. The other thing I wanted to share is that I'm going to be talking about PublishDrive and how we can help. One of the other resources that's out there, and I will edit the notes to reflect this, is a lot of people have had some success with reaching out to Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors, for help with their canceled Amazon account. Sometimes their reps can also help you with getting some assistance there. You do need to be a member. So take a look at the Alliance of Independent Authors, Ally, and check out getting a membership. There's way more benefits there. I think it's a wonderful organization. They do so much to help indie authors and publishers, and there's so many benefits to being part of that organization. So check that out. One of the things that isn't on the webpage yet, because I'm still talking to them about how this is going to look, but we will likely have some speakers from Ally at our online conference. So they're going to talk to you about the benefit of their organization and why it's so important to have that author community around you supporting you. One of the things I do get really frustrated with sometimes in these Facebook groups, and I see it all the time, is that people will say, oh no, my Amazon account got canceled. And you will get like 50 different comments of advice on what to do, and half of them are wrong. And so really figure out where you're getting your advice from, whether that's a professional organization or things like these videos where we can break it down and explain to you. So let's talk about what can trigger Amazon scrutiny. There are a lot of different things that Amazon is looking at. And so Amazon isn't going to publish a complete list of every single thing that its systems monitor. And this is really also important to just say from a PublishDrive standpoint, because I've talked with our team a lot about this, because we do have our own, okay, here are things that we are looking at that may indicate potential fraud. Not always, but sometimes. And so part of why Amazon doesn't release it, and we don't necessarily do the same, is that people out there with bad intentions are going to find those lists and say, okay, here's how we circumvent it. It's just something that we don't want the people who are bad actors to take advantage of. But we're also trying to give as much information as we can to people who I think are watching this video now, who are like, you know, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm following the rules. I'm a legitimate author. I'm a legitimate publisher. I'm doing all of these things right. I want to know how to continue doing them right. And so that's why we're going to give you some guidance and help you a little bit. But if I'm appearing to be vague on some things, it is just because there is some proprietary information I'm not allowed to share. So what are some things that might trigger Amazon scrutiny? So the first thing is, if you've got multiple KDP accounts without Amazon's authorization, that is going to trigger. And some people are like, you know what, I have multiple KDP accounts. I don't know what the big deal is. I've gotten away with it. Great. But that is against Amazon terms of service. And at some point, Amazon might see that and be like, hey, we don't like this. We're shutting you down. And so it's something to be aware of. If you have multiple KDP accounts, reach out to Amazon, figure out how to consolidate that so that you are falling in line with Amazon's terms of service. And that is oftentimes, all of this does point back to what is Amazon terms of service and whether or not you are meeting them. And so really read that carefully. It's really common for a lot of people, and I know I'm guilty of this too. You sign up for a service, you click accept on the terms and conditions, and you're not reading them thoroughly. And so then later when you get caught doing something wrong, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And then you go back and read the terms of service and yep, it's there. So just always bear that in mind, that if you are concerned about what's going on with you and Amazon or you and any other provider, please make sure you are reading those terms and conditions, because oftentimes the keys are in there. So another one that we have seen, and I know is something that is concerning for Amazon, is if you've got multiple accounts connected through the same IP address. And there are legitimate reasons for doing that. Let's just say I am a publisher and I have an account, and my roommate also is a publisher and has their own separate account. We both have publishing businesses, but we use our same Wi-Fi, and so it's the same IP address. Amazon might flag that as suspicious, because what they're doing is they're running the checks, they're looking at IP addresses, and they're like, wait, we've got 5 accounts under this one IP address. Something isn't right here. And that's where they're going to do some investigation. And that's also where we are going to do some investigation. And so, again, just make sure that if you've got multiple accounts under the same IP address, it's for a legitimate reason. Like I said, let's just pretend I had a roommate. We were both published authors. We're both publishing. We're obviously under the same Wi-Fi. That might look suspicious. And so how can we mitigate that risk and that appearance of suspicion? One of the other things is that Amazon does look at is if you're accessing Amazon through a VPN, they know that. They have systems that can check that. And sometimes accessing KDP through a VPN looks suspicious. So that is something that they're going to be researching. So, and that's something that when people have come to us, they have told us that that has been a problem for them in the past. And so, again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are committing fraud or you're a fraudulent partner, but it is something that looks suspicious to some systems. And so keep that in mind. And again, figure out how you're mitigating that risk and how you are approaching that in a professional way so that you can document that you have a legitimate publishing business. Frequent or inconsistent changes in location. Again, some people are digital nomads, some people move around a lot. But again, this is just one of those things that you want to make sure that you have documented business reasons for, because that's just something that an automated checker is going to say, this looks funny. Let's look at it deeper. One of the big things that Amazon is looking at, and this is really where they have the biggest fraud concern, is if you've got mismatched identity, banking, tax, or address information, Amazon is going to flag that. And one of the things that I have seen in groups lately is Amazon has been looking at people in other countries and telling them that they need to change their banking information because they're no longer accepting that banking information. And so that's a real problem for people. And so, again, this is where you want to make sure that you are following Amazon's terms and conditions, and that when you have those banking requests, that you are going into your KDP account, taking a look at it, and making sure that you're doing everything you can to be compliant with your identity, banking, tax, and address information. And this is also something we do at PublishDrive that's really important. Again, in terms of legal risk and fraud risk, just to make sure that we are following the law. And that's ultimately what this comes down to, is it's not picking on anybody or being against certain countries or things like that. It is, what is our legal requirement, and how do we meet our requirements both to the law and to our contracts with providers like Amazon, because we obviously also are under terms and conditions, and we want to make sure that we're following those and honoring those as well. And so it's really important to understand that a lot of this isn't just, hey, we're being really picky. It's, hey, we understand what the law is asking of us. And the law is constantly changing. And I'll get into some of that with some of the EU laws that are changing and in a little bit. So other things that might trigger Amazon scrutiny is copyright or trademark complaints. This is actually one of the biggest things that we see at PublishDrive. And so I imagine Amazon sees this a lot as well. And I know a lot of authors complain about this all the time in groups where they have published a book, and next thing you know, some scammer has published a book just like theirs. And that's really frustrating. And I get it. As an author, I totally understand. And I know how violating that feels when you've written this really amazing book and then somebody goes and copies it and publishes it, maybe with a slightly different title or a slightly different cover, or they've taken your cover and title and done something very similar and then done some garbage content or something like that, or even taken and done different things to imitate your own work. And that's something that we research a lot and we take very seriously. And again, I've seen the emails where someone has emailed us, said, hey, you've published a book that's like mine. And then we research it and we take that very seriously. And we very much enforce copyright and trademark issues. And so that is something that sometimes you'll get a note from PublishDrive where, you know, you might have published a book with us and we're like, hey, can you prove that you have the copyright to that book? And part of that is because we're having to do our due diligence to make sure that this is your own original material or you have the rights to that material. And so that is a very common thing we see at PublishDrive. And I know that's something that Amazon sees as well. And so if there's infringement there or suspected infringement, they're just going to ask you to prove that. Another one that's a very common reason for Amazon accounts to be canceled or suspended is manipulation of reviews, sales, refunds, or Kindle Unlimited page reads. And so if they suspect that you're doing something shady there to manipulate your reviews or your sales or your page reads, they're going to investigate and they're going to go deeper onto that. And this is another one where I see authors all the time saying, hey, I just got accused of that by Amazon and I don't know what to do because this isn't true. And so part of it is just engaging with them and talking to them and saying, hey, what are you seeing? What can I do about it, etc. And really working with the process. And that's something that we can do as PublishDrive is, if we see that or Amazon comes to us and says, hey, we're noticing this suspicious activity, we can also research that and say, okay, what's actually happening? And that doesn't always guarantee you're going to get a favorable outcome, but it is something to be aware of, that is something that Amazon looks at. And it is literally just an algorithm taking a look and saying, this looks suspicious. What's going on here? If you have misleading categories, keywords, or metadata, again, that's something Amazon takes really seriously and they get pretty upset about. And they will ask you to change things in your book and temporarily suspend your book being published until you change that. And I did recently do a live about your categories, keywords, and metadata. So please take a look at that because that may be helpful to you just to make sure that you are accurately reflecting what your book is. And again, this isn't something that is predictable necessarily because it is just an algorithm. It is just an automated system searching and saying, this looks weird. And so the best defense, I think, is a good offense, and to make sure that your categories, keywords, and metadata are on point. Another thing that may trigger Amazon scrutiny is repeatedly publishing substantially identical content. And so this is where a lot of times you see people talking about PLR and things like that, where, we've just done the private label rights to this content and it's substantially identical to other stuff that's out there. And if you're publishing a lot of that, that's where Amazon may scrutinize your account and suspend it or ask you to do business differently. So again, something to think about with your business and really taking a look at how you are protecting your business so that it is not scrutinized as deeply by Amazon in terms of you're following all their rules. And here is another thing to think about. Make sure that your account and all of your account information is current, consistent. Be careful about who you're giving access to your account. Make sure that all of your business and rights documentation is organized and easily to find. As I mentioned, if you've got two legitimate publishers sharing your household, office, or your internet connection, make sure you've got records proving that they are separate businesses, that they're separate entities. All of the things that I'm talking about is just making sure that you have good business organization and good documentation for your businesses. And the other thing that often is an issue is, I'll get to that in a minute. And part of this, the reason that we're talking all about this is that Amazon uses a combination of automated systems, machine learning, and human reviewers. And so many authors, what you're getting as your initial flag, it's an automated response. And it can take multiple steps before an appeal reaches someone who can examine the context. So this is really frustrating, especially for authors that out there and publishers who are running a legitimate business. It's legitimate activity, but it resembles suspicious behavior. And so this is where, you have to understand that. I know some of you are like, Danica, this is why I don't like AI. This is why I don't like automation. I get it, but this is really where the future is moving, like it or not. Amazon is a big company. They have invested millions and billions of dollars into automated systems, AI systems, things like that, that is automating their business to make it easier for them. And so it's really important to understand this automation piece is here and it's not going away. And this is where having that human touch and those human reviewers is really important. And so anytime you have the opportunity to talk to a human, make sure you're doing that. And this is where I think working through a distributor or an aggregator like PublishDrive can offer that different support. We do have human support. We have a support team that is made up of real people. And it's so funny. We often laugh because a lot of times we do get people who are like, this is AI, you bought blah, blah, blah. No, it's a real person. We did have like a very brief period of time where we had an AI system and we didn't find that it was as accurate and made a lot of mistakes. And so we removed that and said, okay, we're doing this with real people, and our real people are taking a look at every concern. So if there's a flag on an account, if there's something that is looking suspicious through the system, a real person is going to take a look at that and say, okay, what's going on? And so they're reviewing account and book concerns. And so if as a customer, we see, hey, this book looks suspicious, we're going to reach out to you and say, this looks suspicious. We aren't going to say this looks suspicious, but we are going to tell you what the concerns are. And then it's up to you to review that and make those changes or not. But ultimately, when we're sending those notices out, when we're sending all of that out, it isn't because we're like, ooh, we want to be mean to this person or whatever. It's because we've noticed that there is a potential problem with a book or account. And remember, this isn't what our personal opinion is. This isn't, ooh, we don't like AI, or ooh, we don't like books that are about dogs or whatever. It is, we know what our retailers' requirements are, and we're just meeting the terms and conditions of those accounts with the retailer. And so when we see something, hey, this might potentially violate terms and conditions, we're going to send a notice out to you, and we're not going to publish the book until we know that this is clarified. So if we notice something that may cause a problem, our goal is to reach out to the customer and understand what is happening and determine whether or not it can be resolved. Now, we can't override a retailer's policies or even guarantee a specific outcome, but you do have real people helping investigate and communicate. And whenever circumstances and retailer requirements allow, we attempt to research and communicate with the customer before taking further action. Again, we can't guarantee specific outcomes, but we really do try our best to work as much as we can to help the customer. And so it's really important for you to understand that we are a team that is working for you because we are invested in your success. We want you to be successful. And so let's take a look at the questionable rights and proving ownership of a book, because I think this comes up a lot. And so first of all, we do have a customer service webinar on that topic. And so please take a look at previous videos. If this is something that you have faced, that's something that we do have a video about in more depth. But in Amazon, might be asking for proof if the book was previously published by another publisher, a previous edition is still available, the title was originally published through a different account, similar content appears under another title or publisher, ownership of the text, translation, cover, or other assets is unclear, or maybe it's something that the author got their rights back, but the retailer records have not caught up. So again, this is where I was talking about documentation and keeping all of your business documents together. Make sure you have copies of all of your publishing contracts. If you had rights reverted to you, make sure those letters, you keep those and you keep them easy to find and provide. If you have copyright registrations, cover art and stock image licenses, translation or licensing agreements, emails from a former publisher, source files, dated drafts, ISBN, and imprint records. Any records that you have about your book, make sure you have that all together in one place so that it's easy to provide upon asking. And here's the thing, is that, I know it's scary when people are like, I can't believe they said, prove you have the rights to the book. Of course I wrote this book. Is that proving your rights doesn't necessarily mean Amazon believes you stole the book. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily being accused of plagiarism or any wrongdoing. It means that the system, which is often an automated computer algorithm that's looking for similarities and patterns, has detected something that requires clarification. And so the best thing you can do is make sure that you have that documentation easy and reachable for you to provide when asked. And that's something with PublishDrive, where if we have a rights question about something, our team can help you understand the documentation that is being requested and help communicate that and make that easier. And again, this is something that it's just really important for you to make sure that you have that information easily accessible and you can talk about, and our team can communicate with you about what we need and how we can help you prove those rights. So one of the rumors that I see repeatedly in author groups is that checking the AI box is what caused someone's account to be terminated. Amazon does not say that AI use by itself is grounds for termination. It's really important to understand that information because there's so many rumors that go around about this. And if you read Amazon's terms and conditions, it does not say AI use is grounds for termination. However, it does require that you disclose. And so it has a box that you check. AI generated content is text, imagery, or translation created by an AI tool. So if you've had the AI write this book for you or created this, then you're going to want to disclose that it is AI generated. AI assisted content is where you're using AI to help with your own work. And so it's your own work, but AI is helping brainstorm, refine, edit, check for errors, etc. And so it's really important to understand that Amazon does require the disclosure of your AI content. And so just disclose what you're asking. PublishDrive is AI positive. And I actually do believe Amazon is AI positive as well, for the record. I think, it is very clear Amazon has and uses AI tools integral to their system. They have all of their own AI development happening in the background. And so they are not at all AI negative. But they require disclosure. And that's the same thing with PublishDrive. We are AI positive. We don't ask about AI use because we want to penalize authors. We're collecting information needed to comply with retail requirements and evolving transparency rules. So if a retailer or distributor asks for your AI disclosure, please answer it honestly. And part of the thing that I want to emphasize is that AI use and laws and all of the requirements, it is ever evolving. And so sometimes we're rushing to keep up just like everybody else. And so a lot of the systems with the different retailers and things, they're not even yet equipped to handle AI disclosure. And so they're having to change their system and their back end, and we have to change our system and our back end to communicate with each other. And so this is just an ongoing thing that is going to be constantly evolving. And I suspect it's going to be a while because it's always going to be evolving and changing until we get more legislation and more clarity around what that legislation means for disclosure. So for now, please answer honestly, because that is one thing that can get your account terminated is through Amazon. Is Amazon won't terminate your account for using AI, but they can terminate for being dishonest about it. So it's important to understand that retailer disclosure isn't necessarily public disclosure to readers. Unfortunately, in some cases, the way it is disclosed, it does show it on your account. We are looking for ways around that, looking for ways to be in alignment with laws and also requirements in terms of service and terms and conditions set by retailers. So it's important to just keep that in mind, that it doesn't necessarily mean that we're telling all the readers, oh, look, this person uses AI. But it is something that, again, it's evolving. And so authors remain responsible for the rights, the quality, and accuracy of everything they publish. And that includes being accurate in their disclosure. And so very important to just keep in mind. So what do you do if your account is suspended or terminated by Amazon? First of all, read the notice carefully. Reply using the communication channel Amazon provides. Address the specific issue identified. Ask for clarification if the request is unclear. Provide supporting documentation. Remain concise, factual, and professional. And I'm going to really, really stress this because I cannot tell you how many angry, abusive emails our team has received from customers. Like there's honestly some of the meanest, rudest, unprofessional, unkind emails I have seen to our staff. And I know Amazon gets similar. Here's the thing, and this is what I want you all to understand. If you send us an email where you are angry and rude and mean and cussing us out, I promise you that gets put to the lower end of the pile. We are like, we don't want to deal with this crazy person. Look, this is an easier task. We're going to deal with that instead. And the angrier and more rude you are, the less we're willing to help you. If you're kind and you're like, hey, I get this is going on. How can we help you? I want to work this out. All of that, we're probably going to go above and beyond to try to help you. And so all of the nastiness actually hurts you rather than helps you. So the more professional, the more concise, the more factual you are, the better, because that's what's going to get you the more favorable response. And that's what's going to get people to go above and beyond for you. If you're rude and angry and nasty and cussing at people, honestly, they're going to do the bare minimum. It actually isn't motivating. And so also make sure that, again, you have all that evidence, you have it all together in a clear and concise way. Here's what you don't want to do. Don't open another KDP account. Don't use someone else's account. And if your ordinary appeals fail, look to experienced legal or industry help. And that is going to organizations like Ally or looking for more legal help. But here's the biggest key. Don't panic and immediately start changing everything in your account. Again, if you get a notice and boom, you change everything in your account, that actually signals suspicion to Amazon. So first, actually look at what Amazon is asking about and preserve the records that may help explain it. And if you don't know what records you need, go to Amazon, talk to them, and figure it out. And yes, I know you're like, okay, I get that, but it's all automated. It's all bots. It's hard to get to a real person. I know. And that is unfortunately what happens when dealing with a big company like Amazon, is that unfortunately it does take a while to get to a real person, but continue to be patient. And again, if you need experienced legal or industry help, go to that, because I do know people, unfortunately, who have had that where they've followed everything exactly, and Amazon's like, nope, we're still canceling you. It's still final. Sorry, have a nice day. And I do get that, and I understand that it's scary. And that's why it's really important to have that industry help, look to those resources. So the question is, can PublishDrive help after an Amazon termination? First of all, we're not a backdoor around an Amazon termination. You shouldn't open a PublishDrive account, select Amazon, and attempt to send your books back through without disclosing that to us. Because that's going to potentially just get your books blocked through us. Because again, we send a book that Amazon says, ooh, that's been blocked. That is going to put us in a position of, oh, okay, so that book's been blocked. We have to send it back to the customer. But again, if we become, ooh, this is a route around Amazon, that also puts our account in jeopardy. So please don't do that to us. And please don't do that to yourself. Because again, if your books have been blocked by Amazon, when we send it to Amazon, Amazon's going to be like, oh yeah, that's been blocked. However, in some individual cases, we have been able to communicate with Amazon and receive approval to distribute an author's books through our platform. This is handled on case by case. It's not guaranteed. And it does require speaking with our sales team so they can evaluate the situation. And so if that is you, please feel free to reach out to our sales team, sales@publishdrive.com, and they will evaluate your situation on a case-by-case basis. They might be able to help you. They might not. So again, not a guarantee. So attempting to return to Amazon without being authorized and trying to use someone like PublishDrive to circumvent the Amazon ban, that is against Amazon's terms and conditions. That's against their terms of service. And so please do not try to circumvent their terms and conditions, because we will figure that out as well. And we are not going to jeopardize our standing with Amazon by circumventing their policies and procedures. And that ultimately is why going wide is so important for protecting your business. And, even if you have a ban on Amazon, you can still go wide with PublishDrive. Just deselect Amazon as a store. And you can select other stores like Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Google Play. Going wide provides multiple sources of income. It's access to readers who do not shop at Amazon. You get greater international reach, along with library and subscription discovery, more promotional options, and less vulnerability to a single policy, algorithm, or account decision. And, obviously you're still a little bit vulnerable to PublishDrive policies and procedures, but, you can still go wide through other means. Obviously, I'm going to say use PublishDrive, but you can still sell via major retailers. And I know a lot of authors who have done this, where they've lost their Amazon account. So they're wide through Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. They distribute to everyone but Amazon. And so it may be your largest retailer, but it's not the only place where people buy, borrow, or discover books. It may take time to teach other readers on how to find your books in other places. but it's doable and it can be done. And there's a strategy for doing that. And so some practical steps for this is, in my opinion, you want to start looking at this now. Start protecting your business assets now before you run into trouble. Like I said, the first thing I would absolutely do is all this documentation that I've been talking about, make sure you have it and make sure you have it handy in a place. Frankly, I'm just going to be honest. My hard drive and my files, it is a hot, flaming mess. I kind of know how I could find all of that information. So it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. But honestly, how many of you have your books saved as draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, draft final? Really? No, this is actually the final draft. I actually do save my drafts like that, although I do try to save them in folders and things. But it can be complicated when you're trying to find important documentation and things like that. I just realized as I was talking that there is a book that I got the rights back to that I haven't done anything with. I did get an email from the publisher on that giving me my rights back. And that email crashed and I don't have access to that email again. So I'm like, did I save that email somewhere? Where would I have saved it? Where would it be? Again, right now it's not relevant because I haven't republished that book, but it's something to think about when I do go to republish that book is where do I have that rights? But here's another thing to think about is that also authors tend to do this all or nothing, KDP, select, or going wide. And I don't think it is an either or thing. And I have a lot of authors who have been really upset because they take everything out of KU and put everything wide. And then they're mad because they lose all their income or their income is drastically reduced. And so here's what you want to do. Start small. Start with one series that's completed or one new released or a section of your backlist. Do your ebooks before adding print or title. Maybe it's a first in series book and it's read through titles. But pick something. Pick one place to begin. If you're moving from KU to wide, just pick one place to begin. Don't do it all at once. And then start talking to your readers, letting your readers know where to find you, where to find your books, how to find your books. And start encouraging them and giving them incentives to buy your books in places other than Amazon. And also, one of the common mistakes that I see when people try to go wide is checking their exclusivity. It's really important to remember if you're in KDP Select, you can't distribute to other retailers. You can do libraries and things like that. But really make sure that you've turned off automatic renewal. You've waited for your current term to end before distributing your ebook elsewhere. It's really important to have those dates, that information, to make sure that it is all together and that you're keeping track of that, because so many times people will think that they've unenrolled that automatic renewal and they forgot, or maybe it didn't save right and it automatically renews, and then they're getting in trouble with Amazon because Amazon thinks it's still in KDP Select. And then from there, make sure that you're publishing your book direct and going direct with the retailers. All of those retailers I described, many of them you can just go directly to them, or you can use an aggregator like PublishDrive. Going direct means having an individual relationship with each retailer, and it means managing multiple dashboards, payments, tax forms, reporting systems, all of that. And that's why PublishDrive is a great option, because we do all of it through one dashboard. And so you're managing those multiple eligible channels through the one dashboard. You can select which stores PublishDrive services. So if you are wanting to go direct to certain retailers and use PublishDrive for other ones, you can certainly do that. Just make sure you are turning that store off on PublishDrive. And so how to maximize going wide. First of all, stop sending to every reader to Amazon by default. So many times people who are wide just provide the Amazon link. Make sure you're providing the links to other stores. letting people know that they can buy their books in other stores. New stores, new retailers are going to take time to establish your sales history and also to establish you in their algorithm. So a lot of times I see this mistake where authors upload something everywhere. They send everything everywhere, but then they send every reader to Amazon. And then they say, well, going wide doesn't work. But they haven't given themselves enough time, A, to establish that retailer, B, to train your readers to go to other stores. The other stores can't learn who your readers are if you never send readers to them. And so going wide isn't a guarantee that you'll never have a retailer problem. And like I said, it's not a way to evade retailer policies, but it can give you more options, access to human support, and a business that's going to continue reaching readers if your relationship with one store changes. As I mentioned, take a look at Dale's video. I think it's got some really valuable information. You can see where all the stores we reach in the description. I will add some links to some retailer-specific videos in case you are interested in that. And remember, Foundations for Publishing Success is our online conference. It takes place September 8th through 9th. You can find more information about that in the link to the description. Please go ahead, sign up at the link. It is completely free, but we'd love for you to go ahead and sign up so we have some idea of who all is going to be interested and attending. And because we really do want to make this a valuable conference for everyone. And of course, if you are interested in meeting in person in Budapest in June, please scroll down on that page, click the survey, and fill out the information so we know what to plan for. And if you're liking this information, make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube. And we're here every Tuesday at noon Eastern. So make sure you put this on your calendar to continue to follow us and get all of this information. And as always, if you have ideas, future episodes, things that you'd like to see us talk about, ways we can help you grow and expand your business, it's really important to us. It's very important to me, both as an author and as someone who's working for a company that helps authors. Because Amazon can be an important part of your business, and I know that it is the key to most authors' businesses, but it can be important without being the whole foundation. We don't have to fully rely on Amazon and leave our business as susceptible to something that we can't control. And so hopefully this episode has given you a list of things that you can control, ideas of where you can protect your business, and hopefully some resources so that in the future, as you are looking at Amazon and what's happening with your business, you can find more success. We love having you and love getting the chance to talk to you each week. So have a great day, and I will see you next Tuesday at noon Eastern.